Hello and welcome to the next edition of the BriefingsDirect Voice of Tech Services Innovation podcast series. I'm Dana Gardner, Principal Analyst at Interarbor Solutions, your host and moderator for this ongoing discussion on how services and support for enterprise IT have entered a new era. For IT technology service providers, the timing couldn't be better. Those now consuming tech support are demanding higher order value, such as getting more worker productivity from hybrid services delivered across many more remote locations. At the same time, the underlying technologies and intelligence to enhance traditional help desk type support are blossoming to deliver proactive and even consultative enhancements. Stay with us now as we examine how Hewlett Packard Enterprise Pointnext Services has developed solutions to satisfy this new era of IT tech support expectations. We'll learn about HPE's new generation of readily at hand expertise, augmented on-location services, and ongoing guidance that will propel businesses to exploit their digital domains better than ever. Here to share the Pointnext vision for the future of advanced IT operational services are our guests, who are here with Jerry Nolan, Director of Operational Services Portfolio at HPE Pointnext Services. Welcome, Jerry.
Hi, Dana. Great to be here. Thank you.
We're glad to have you. We're also here with Rob Brothers, Program Vice President, Data Center and Support Services at IDC. Welcome, Rob.
Hi, Dana. Thank you very much for having me on the show.
You bet. Rob, let's start with you. What are enterprise IT leaders and their consumers demanding of tech support here early in 2021? And how are their expectations different from just, say, a year or two ago?
It's a great question, Dana. So actually, I'll start off. I do want to jump back a little bit further than just maybe a year or so ago, because support has really evolved over, I would say, just the past 5, 6, 7 years. If you think about product support and support in general, back in the day, it was really just that. It was an add-on. It was break-fix services. It was placing a phone call, right, to get something fixed. That has really evolved over the past few years due to the fact that we have more intelligent devices. And customers are really looking for that kind of proactive, predictive capabilities, access to experts and technicians. And that really kind of took a fast track trajectory during the pandemic. We talk about digital transformation. And during COVID, customers really needed these new ways to work with support organizations. They needed more technical assistance. So we saw a plethora of secure remote support capabilities coming out. We saw devices getting more connected. We saw customers looking for that expertise over the phone or via chat or via augmented reality, whatever the channel was. We really saw this trajectory and growth that really spurred on a lot of innovation, and not just the innovation, but the consumption of that innovation. So I'd say those would be a couple of the big differentials that I've seen just over the past couple of years, is just that need for newer support models and a different way of receiving support and utilizing a lot of this new proactive predictive capabilities that's built inside of these systems and really getting connected back to the vendor. And not only that, those enterprises that do connect back to the vendor are getting that experience and then passing that experience to their customers, which I think is really the important part of the whole equation, is making sure that experience translates to that enterprise's customers.
I suppose it's a bit about collective knowledge, that when we can gather it and share it, it just builds on itself. And we've also had those tools in place to connect and collaborate better. So it is sort of an auspicious time, even though as the demand for these services has skyrocketed.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, if you take a look at I find augmented reality extremely interesting and a great use case for a pandemic time. If you can't send an engineer to a facility, maybe you can give an engineer that IT department has Google Glasses or some other sort of technology that has AR, and maybe you can walk them through something that they may not have been able to do on their own. And with all the data and information that the vendor collects, they can more easily walk them through issues that they may be seeing. So that's just one really kind of cool use case during this pandemic time.
Jerry, do you agree that there's been sort of an auspicious timing when it comes to the need for these support services and the ability to deliver them technically and through the tools and data available?
Yeah, there's no question. I would totally agree with what Rob was just saying. We saw a massive spike with the pandemic in terms of driving to remote. We already had significant remote capabilities, but many of our customers all of a sudden have a huge remote workforce they have to deal with. They've got to keep their IT running with minimal on-site presence. And you've got to really quickly start innovating and delivering things like augmented reality and virtual reality, which is what we did. We already had that solution, but it's amazing how something like a pandemic can all of a sudden elevate that to our thousands and thousands of technical engineers around the world. All of a sudden are using that technology and that solution to virtually join customer sites and help them triage and diagnose and do installations and really keep their systems and their businesses running during a very tough period. So yeah, totally. And I guess another couple of insights would be that we've seen customers struggling, not just through the pandemic, but even before that, with sort of the bandwidth, how many resources they had and the skills of those people as more and more new technologies hit the streets. To Rob's point, it's really difficult for customers to keep pace with the speed of change in IT. There's more and more hunger for having partners that go rich and deep on expertise across a wide plethora of technologies. So yeah, there's a whole variety of activities going on.
Yeah, and it's interesting, to Jerry's point around those technical capabilities. One of the biggest things I hear from enterprises is just trying to find that talent pool. You're trying to get employees to come in and do some of these technical side of the equation on a lot of these assets. They're really just not out there, right? We've got people that want to look at programmers or doing big data and data scientists. Getting folks to come in to assist on that level is becoming more and more difficult. Hence, working with the vendor for a lot of these solution sets and that technical expertise, really comes in handy.
Right. To your point, Rob, when you can outsource, people have outsourced. That's been a trend for 10 or 15 years now. Yeah. What are the challenges organizations as well as the providers have in closing that gap of recognizing the best fit, the just-in-time, minimal viable fit for your support and your need?
I actually did a big study around digital transformation. And one of the big issues I've seen within enterprises is just kind of a very siloed structure. The networking team not talking to the storage team, not talking to the server team, and kind of protecting turf, as it will, in that case, right? So trying to get the vendor to come in and say, look, no, we can do this for you in a more simpler fashion. We can do it a little bit faster, and we can keep maybe downtime out of your environment. Trying to get that convinced over to the enterprise can sometimes be a little bit tricky and a little bit difficult. So I do see that is one of the inhibitors to get some of these great services that the vendors have into these environments. The second big one I saw were just these big legacy environments. And this kind of goes back to that whole connectiveness piece that I talked about. It's getting a lot of these legacy systems connected in with some of the newer systems and then feeding all that information back to the vendor. This is where you see a little bit of struggle within enterprises. Like, okay, well, how do I support this older equipment, still migrate to this new platform that I want to get to be able to do a lot of this cloud-based computing and become a little more operationally efficient? The vendors can really assist with that, but it's those stovepipe silos that you sometimes see within enterprise that sometimes will make it very difficult.
Right. That's the fact that we have hybrid everything, and now we have to adjust our support and services to that as well. Jerry, about challenges to people getting their heads wrapped better around the opportunity here for better support. It seems to me that we also have some older thinking around how you buy these things, usually through perhaps a warranty or a support plan. And when you buy something as a bolt-on, you usually perhaps don't think about using it until things have gone amiss. How do we need to change the way we think about acquiring these services too?
I think following on from what Rob just said, customers are really all about experiences these days. Think about pretty much every part of your life, whether you're going to the bank or dealing with booking a vacation, or even these days you have the electric car vendors. They've totally transformed the experience in each of those areas. So IT is no different. And I think customers are really trying to move beyond, as Rob was saying, that more legacy thinking where they're contacting a support provider for a break fix issue. They really want, when they're buying the solution, they want the solution to come with an end-to-end experience that's compelling, that's engaging, where they don't really need to think about all the various bits and pieces. And do I need to add this on? And do I need to add that option? And do I need to add those 10 services? The less decisions that a customer has to make and the more they can just aim for a particular outcome, I think the more successful we're going to be.
Yeah, and I think, Jerry, also to that point, when a customer invests, say, $500,000 or $1 million in a solution set, the old mindset was after 3-4 years, I may be retiring that right. and buying new. But that's completely changed. Now you're looking at this technology for a little bit maybe longer term within your environment, and making sure you're getting the value out of it becomes extremely important. And the value is, how's that support experience? What does the system look like from a performance perspective? Did I get the dollar value out of it? And then is that experience not just with the vendor and with my own internal IT, but how's that experience now correlating out to my end user customer? To bring that whole circle around, it's really the experience for everybody in the environment, not just for the vendor, not just for the enterprise, but it's the enterprise's customers.
Yeah, and Rob, I think it behooves the seller of the goods, if they've moved from a CapEx model to an OpEx model, that they want to make those services as valuable as possible, and therefore applying the right and best level of support sort of locks the customer in on a value basis rather than a physical basis.
That's one great mindset change that I've seen happen just over the past 5 years. I'd say about 5 or 6 years ago, I did a study and I asked customers how they bought support. And overwhelmingly, they said they just bought a blanket support contract. It was the same contract for all of the assets within the environment. And really just recently, in the past couple of years, that's completely changed. They're really looking now at the workload. They're looking at the systems that run those workloads and making better decisions as to, really, I need to have this type of support contract on that system, or I need to buy that in an OpEx or a CapEx type manner versus kind of that blanket contract that they used to put on it. So it's really great to see how customers have evolved and really taken a look at their environment and said, I need different types of support on the different assets that I have, which provide me different experiences. So that's been a great change that I've seen probably just in the past couple of years.
I think as a follow-on, if you don't mind, Dana, exactly what Rob was just saying, what we're also seeing is customers want the ability to evolve and sort of move from one model to another. So you might have a customer environment where they have some legacy products where they need help. They're implementing some new technologies and some new solutions, and then they're developing some new apps. It's really helpful for the customer if they can work, for example, with a single vendor and have multiple different models going on. So they're getting support for their legacy, because every customer has lots of legacy in their environment. They've got the ability to deploy new on-prem technologies and integrate with their legacy. And then, of course, having that consumption as a service model that Rob just talked about, having a nice, easy way of transitioning workloads over where appropriate, I think that's a big benefit and what customers seem to be looking for more and more these days.
So if we could maybe do a net on what we've talked about so far, Jerry, we've got a great deal of change. We have an ability to service organizations better with an emphasis on the experience over time. And we also have the ability, I suppose, to refactor what we can deliver. So what's the vision now behind HPE? What's it doing to provide a new generation of tech support that accommodates this new environment?
We're very excited. We're going to be launching here in a couple of months a new support experience called HPE Pointnext Tech Care. And this is really all about delivering on much of what's just been said in terms of moving beyond a product sort of break-fix experience to really helping customers get the most out of that product all the way through from purchasing it all the way through its life cycle to end of life. So in simple terms, our main goal here for Tech Care is to help customers maximize and expose all the value from that product. And we're going to do that with Tech Care through 5 different key elements. And if you don't mind, I'll take a moment and just walk through those. The first is, it's a very simple experience. I mean, today we have 4 different choices when you're buying a product as to which experience you want to go with. In the post-Tech Care world, products are going to be sold. They come embedded with a support experience called Tech Care. It's a very simple experience. It has some choices on the SLA side, but it's really going to simplify dramatically the buying and owning experience for customers. The second aspect is the digital component, and Rob mentioned that, and we see that everywhere in life today. I mean, we've really got to step up our game on the digital side. So for us, that means embedding a lot of telemetry in the products. We have a product called InfoSight that's now embedded in all of our new technology being deployed. So InfoSight's collecting all that telemetry and sending it back to Mothership, which allows our support experts to gain all those insights and provide help with the customer in mitigating, predicting, planning capacity, really trying to help keep that system running and optimized at all times. So that's one element of the digital component. And then the other aspect is having a very rich support portal, a customer engagement platform. So even today, we've already redone our support center on hpe.com, and customers will see it's completely changed. It's got a new look and feel. well. And then over the coming quarters, there'll be more and more new capabilities and functionality added where customers will be able to see dashboards, personalized views of their environment and their product. They'll be able to get omni-channel access to all of our experts, which is the third element, is providing, we have all these great expertise. Traditionally, you would connect with them over the phone, but going forward, you're going to have this ability, as Rob mentioned, customers want to deal with chat. They want to be able to watch videos of the experts. They want to perhaps talk to their peers. So we have a moderated forum area where customers can communicate with each other and with our experts. And there's a whole plethora of white papers, tech tip videos. So it's a very rich environment from that point of view. And then the fourth element, again, we believe touches on a key trend that Rob mentioned, which is going beyond break fix. So with TechCare, you'll have the ability to communicate with our experts beyond just talking about a broken part of your system. This will allow you to be able to contact us and talk about things like using the product or capacity planning or all of this, the configuration information that you may have questions about. So the general tech guidance feature of TechCare, we believe, is going to be very exciting for customers. They're going to really benefit from that. And then the fifth component is really, again, touching on something Rob mentioned, which is that broader spectrum of lifecycle help that customers want. They don't just want a support experience all the way from buying the product, all the way through its lifetime. The customer may need help with migration. They may need help with performance, with security, with maybe even retiring or sanitizing that asset, or even training their people. So with TechCare, you have this nice, easy mechanism where you've got this very robust sort of warm blanket of support that comes with the product, and that can easily be augmented with all of these other menu choices that are there. So we're very excited about launch of TechCare, and it comes with those 5 key elements, and it's really going to transform, we believe, the support experience and help customers get the most from their HPE products.
So Rob, how much of a departure do you sense the TechCare approach is from some of the earlier HPE offerings, say Foundation Care or the ones that came before that? Is this a sea change, a moderate change? How big of a deal is this?
In my opinion, it's a pretty significant change. And the reason why I say that is you're going to get that proactive, predictive capabilities that a lot of other vendors kind of charge a real premium for at the base level of the system. And I can't stress enough how important it is for that proactive, predictive capabilities within environments. A survey that I did not that long ago, I did a cost of downtime study. And in that cost of downtime study, customers saw approximately 700 or so hours of downtime per year across their environment. And this is server, storage, networking, security, and we take human error into that also. If customers enabled proactive, predictive capabilities, they said they saw approximately 200 hours of saved downtime. Because what that proactive predictive capabilities does at that base layer is allow you to do the one big thing that prevents downtime, and that's patch management, patch planning. So those technical experts that Jerry talked about can take all this beautiful feature-rich information and data, feed it back to the customer and say, look, here's how your environment looks. Here's where we see some areas that you can make improvements in. Here's a patch plan that you can put in place. And all the data that I've got that's come back from enterprises say, if I do a better job of that patching and patch planning, that just saves a copious amount of unplanned and planned downtime out of my environment because I now do a better job of that. That's precious information and data. And to me, that's kind of the big fundamental change that I see is that, hey, they're really showing the value to the customer. They don't have to buy some of those premium level. They can get that kind of at more of the base level, which is extremely important and provides that experience to end user customers. So I do think that's a huge fundamental shift and definitely a value add for the customers.
And Rob, correct me if I'm wrong, but by having this proactive baked in from the start on your ops comes at an auspicious time because people are also trying to do this with their SecOps. And so it seems to me that we're dovetailing the right approach for patching and other proactive maintenance along with what's needed for security. So there's a security benefit here as well.
Oh, massive, especially if you look at this day and age with a lot of the security breaches we just had just over the past year due to the need for secure remote access to a lot of systems. Yeah, it definitely plays a major factor in how enterprises should be thinking about their patching and patch planning.
And Jerry, just to pull on that thread again about data and knowledge sharing, the more you get people to produce the relationship that you're describing with tech care, the more back and forth of the data and what the systems are doing and confronting takes place, and you get sort of a virtuous cycle. Tell us a bit about how the machine learning and data gathering works and why that's an auspicious, virtuous cycle.
That's an excellent question. And of course, you're spot on. I mean, this combination of the telemetry built into the actual products through HPE InfoSight, and then our back-end experts and the detailed knowledge management processes that are going on. I mean, we have agents that are watching and listening and talking to customers and dealing with issues. So you've got two things going on. You have the software learning over time, and we have rules being built in there so that when it spots an issue, it can go and look for all other environments that look like that one and then help the customer mitigate and predict ahead of time what we're seeing is an issue over here. You might want to change this configuration or that parameter. And then our experts can engage because they're also dealing with and seeing various challenges happening around the world in various environments. So the knowledge management process means that we're constantly building more and more content, more and more knowledge, and we're immediately making that available through the new digital customer platform. So customers will immediately get the benefit of all of this knowledge, however it comes to bear. It might be a tech tip video, it might be a white paper, it might be an item or an article in the moderated forum. So there's this rich back and forward between what's available in the portal, what's available, and the more and more knowledge that the software will build over time. And all of this just comes to bear in a more rich experience for the customer where they can help either self-solve or self-serve. But if they want to engage with our experts, they're available now in multiple different channels in multiple different ways.
Rob, another area where I think 2 + 2 = 5 or more in all of this is when we can take those machine learning and data-driven insights that Jerry described across a larger addressable market of installed devices and then augment that with the My Room type technologies and the virtual reality that you described. How do we look to understand the value growing when we can combine such insights with the ability to then deliver the knowledge and what we need to do to fix things through a more, I guess, digital or localized capability?
That's a really great point. The whole idea really is to have what we call autonomous IT, to have systems be more on the self-repair side, have product in pieces shipped prior to things going wrong. One of the biggest pieces and one of the most costly pieces of downtime is human error. If we can pull human touch, human interaction out of the IT environment, we save hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. That's what all this data and information will provide the IT vendors with this capability to say, look, let's take the human interaction out of it because we know that's one of the most costly sides of the equation. If we can do this in an autonomous fashion where we're optimizing systems on a regular basis, equipment is being shipped to the facility prior to anything breaking, and we can schedule some downtime or quiet time on the systems and make sure that workloads are moved properly in a more autonomous fashion. I think that's really the end game, right? Is to really get to that point where the human factor gets more and more removed from the situation, and we're really relying upon the intelligence of the systems to do more. We're a little ways away from that because we have these crazy heterogeneous environments, but that's definitely the direction we're moving in, and what we're seeing is definitely heading in that direction.
Yeah, and in that case, you're not necessarily buying support, you're buying insurance. And then you're saying to the insurer, you figure out what's wrong with the car, I'm going to keep driving it, and I'll pay you the insurance premium every quarter, but I know that my car is going to keep driving and I'm going to keep having the experience I want. Yeah,
and that gets into the consumption models that we're beginning to see come out, right? And HPE is one of the leaders in that space. With HPE GreenLake, back in the day, it was called FlexiPacity. They were one of the pioneers, vendors, to actually come up with solution sets like that, which kind of take that whole burden of that IT off of IT's plate and puts it back on the vendor.
And we have a term, one of my colleagues used, Dana, they call it invisible IT. That's really what a lot of customers are looking for. And as Rob said, we're some ways from that, but it's a noble goal and we're all in to try and achieve it. So.
All right, so we know what the end goal is, but we're still in the progression to it. But in the meantime, it's important to demonstrate to people value and return on investment. So do we have any examples, Jerry? Rob already mentioned a few of his studies that showed some dramatic improvements, but do we have some use cases and or early adoption patterns that you can point to so that people know what they're bound to have as improvements? How do we measure when you do this well and you get the benefit?
Well, there's a ton of benefits. For example, extensive TechTiv video libraries. We've also got chat implemented. We've got the moderated forums up and running. We have lots of different elements of the experience already live in certain product areas, especially in storage. And of course, we see in storage, many of the products, the majority of products are actually connected through InfoSight. And that means those systems are being monitored on a 24/7 basis. And the software, to Rob's point, it's trying to monitor and predict and mitigate issues before they occur and provide all sorts of insights and recommendations. And this allows both the customer and our support experts to engage and take remediation action before anything bad happens. We're really excited. Customers seem to love this overall much more rich experience. Yes, there's a lot more data and a lot more insights, but to have those experts on hand to be able to gain or build the right action plan from all of that data is really important. And of course, in terms of some of the benefits, what we're seeing in the storage space, those customers that are connected, we're seeing 73% fewer tickets, fewer trouble tickets, 69% faster time to resolution. And then to date, since InfoSight was first deployed in that environment, about 1.5 million hours of saved productivity time. So there's real benefits here when you combine this being connected with AI and machine learning tools like InfoSight, and then the rich value available in TechCare. All of this comes together, reduces downtime, improves performance, and really helps towards that goal that Rob talked about, the autonomous IT or the invisible IT.
Rob, we started our conversation about what's changed over the past decade or so. What's changed when it comes to the KPIs for evaluating tech support and services? And are there any intangibles? Maybe it's a level of confidence that people are willing to do things on a trial basis or be innovative at levels that they wouldn't have before because they were afraid of the IT side of the angle. Are there KPIs that are new and intangible that we need to factor in this?
Yeah, well, I say some of the big newer KPIs that we're seeing was what I touched upon a little bit earlier. It's not just the experience that the enterprise has with the vendor, although that's obviously extremely important. It's how does that correlate to the experiences my end users are receiving with that. And I think you're beginning to see those measurements really come to bear. I have an SLA and KPIs to, me being the enterprise, to my end users. How is that matching to the KPIs and SLAs I have back to my vendor? Those you're beginning to see really begin to merge and come together. So you're beginning to see new matrices put in place where you can really evaluate the vendor as to how well you're delivering that user experience to your end users. So we're beginning to see that. And that takes a little bit of time and energy from a infrastructure perspective in order to put those dashboards in place that can measure that, right? Because that's a fairly complex measurement to put in place. But we're beginning to see that more and more from the enterprises, really looking to seek that value from the vendor. And the vendors are stepping up, right? They're beginning to show these dashboards back to the enterprise that say, yep, hey, here's the SLAs, here are the KPIs, here's the performance matrices that we're collecting that should correlate fairly well to what you're providing to your end user customers.
Jerry, it seems likely that when we turn the corner on these values and we align them with what the IT department can provide to their end users, it fits into digital transformation because people have to perceive of the digital technologies as an enabler and not as a hurdle, not as something to stumble over. Is TechCare an essential part of digital transformation when we think about that change of perception?
I'd say it totally is. I mean, one of the early customers, a large US retailer, they've gone through a situation where they have a bunch of technology, each one with its own individual support contract. And they've moved to this more centralized, as Rob just mentioned, a much simpler approach where they have one support experience, which we actually deliver across each of their different products. And they're seeing huge benefits. They've gone from firefighting and having their small IT team predominantly focused on dealing with issues and calling support regarding hardware and update type issues. And all of a sudden, they were measuring themselves on incidents, how many incidents, and they were trying to keep that at a manageable level. Well, now they've totally changed. The incidents have almost disappeared, and now they're focused on innovation. How fast can they get new applications out to their business? How fast can they get new projects to market in support of the business? So they're just one recent customer who are sort of gone through this transformation where they're using all of the things we just talked about, and it's really delivering significant benefit to them, their IT group, and then their IT group in turn are now heroes to their business partners around the US.
All right, we're about out of time, but I just wanted to close out with some insights into how organizations should prepare themselves. Let's start with you, Rob. If you want to see this new level of capability across your IT organization, you want the consumers of IT in your enterprise to look to IT for solutions and innovation and be eager to do it and execute on it, what should you be thinking about now? What should you put in place as the consumer in order to take advantage of offerings that organizations like HPE are now offering?
To me, it all starts at the deployment process, and we should have brought this up a little earlier. When you're looking and evaluating vendors to go with, it's not just, hey, how's the product? Is the product going to perform and do its task? 99% of the time, the systems that you're going to be procuring is going to solve the issue that you're looking to solve. The keys are, how well is that vendor going to get that system up and running in my environment, connected to everything it needs to be connected to, and then support it and optimize it for the long run. It's really about that experience. So as an enterprise, you need to think differently on how you want to engage with your vendor. You need to think about all the different performance KPIs and SLAs that you need to match, like I said, back to your end user customer. So the thought process of evaluating vendors, in my opinion, is shifting. It's more about what type of experience do I get with this vendor versus is the product going to do its job? So I think that's one of the big transitional phases I'm seeing right now is enterprises are thinking about more of the experience they have with their partner, more so than is the product going to do the job.
Jerry, last word to you. What do you recommend people do in order to get prepared to do this, and where can they learn more about taking advantage of such offerings as TechCare?
Just following on from what Rob said, customers can decide what experience they would like. We have TechCare will be the embedded support experience that comes with their HPE product. It's going to be very easy to buy because it's going to be right there embedded with the product when the product is being configured and when the quote is being put together. They'll have some choices in terms of which SLA they want. Is it a basic type environment? Is it more what we call an essential level of SLA? Or is it a business critical environment where they're running mission critical apps, in which case they'll go for the higher level SLA. But it's a very simple, easy, fully integrated experience, and they're buying a full product experience, not a product and then choose their support experience on the side. If they want something broader than a product experience, so they want what I call the warm blanket around their whole environment, we do have another experience called Data Center Care that will provide that. We also have other experiences like we can manage the environment for them using our management capabilities. And then, of course, we have our HPE GreenLake as a service. It's really the cloud that comes to you, the on-prem as a service experience. And for us, we've designed each of these experiences so they can totally live together and work together, or you can move and evolve from one to the other. So you can buy products that come with TechCare and then easily move to a broader Data Center Care, cover my whole environment, all the way through to, okay, we trust you, we know you, would you guys like to do some of this work for us? We can take on and manage some of that environment. And then, of course, we can transition workloads to the as a service model as and where necessary. So we're trying to make it as easy and as fast as possible for customers to onboard through any of those experiences.
Well, very good. I'm afraid we'll have to leave it there. We've been exploring how today's consumers of IT tech support are demanding higher order value to get the most from their hybrid systems and services. And we've learned how HPE Pointnext Services has matched these new IT tech support expectations with a new generation of readily at hand expertise, augmented on-location services, and ongoing guidance that will propel businesses to exploit their digital domains better than ever. So please join me in thanking our guests. We've been here with Jerry Nolan, Director of Operational Services Portfolio at HPE Pointnext Services. Thank you very much, Jerry.
Thank you, Dana.
And we've also been here with Rob Brothers, Program Vice President, Data Center and Support Services at IDC. Thank you so much, Rob.
Thanks, Dana. Thanks, Jerry.
And a big thank you as well to our audience for joining us for this sponsored BriefingsDirect Voice of Tech Services Innovation discussion. I'm Dana Gardner, Principal Analyst at Inter Arbor Solutions, your host for this ongoing series of HPE-supported discussions. Thanks again for listening. Please pass this along to your IT community and do come back next time.